Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Today with a very special video. Ashlands is being shown off in a major way, and we've got release date information for obviously the next Valheim update. Well, biome update anyway. The Iron Gate crew have done a 12-minute walk and talk talking about development of Ashlands and the problems they've faced in revealing too much info versus not revealing any, and why maybe it's taken a bit longer than normal to really focus and make sure that this biome is right. I'm going to highlight and show off all the Ashlands gameplay itself, and then I'll probably leave the video to run at the very end so you can check them out in their own words. But it's really good stuff. It really shows so much of the gameplay mechanics, new enemies in action, what we'll be faced with, and the blog also details some more info about food and the fauna that we'll be encountering in the next update. Bottom line, you're not expecting Ashlands to hit until the first half of the year at some point next year. Obviously that might be pretty obvious since it was getting close to Christmas and the end of the year. Hardly doubt they were going to release it next week. My prediction has always been the first quarter, so that would be January till March. But now they've said the first half of the year, that could be obviously all the way up until July. Given they've often referenced this as the hot summer Viking, it wouldn't surprise me if we actually saw it arrive in May to June or July itself. But that's still better than having no date at all, even if it is still far away. And this glimpse, sneak peek at all a bunch of stuff, I think is the right move. It really shows people what to expect and hopefully get everyone excited. So please leave a like if you want to see more Valheim news. As soon as obviously the updates are arriving, I'll be all over it. Let's go. So Monty, the community manager, Jonathan, the senior programmer, and I guess basically tinkerer, and Robin, aka the art guy and lead on Ashlands, basically discuss the problems with biomes. It can't just be necessarily a reskin. They really want these different biomes to be new experiences, almost like expansions. But I do recognise they have to temper that with how long that would take, and that balance between reskin and then actually adding proper new mechanics. It seems like they've gone for the new mechanics and how that blends in, hence why this update has taken a bit longer than even the Mistlands one did, and why their updates in general were a bit slower, because they want to make sure everything's right. As we've seen from so many other early access games, they release buggy updates that are broken, can really put the game back, put a negative frame of mind for a lot of people. It's probably better to wait, even if that does mean a while. Robin also references the inspiration for the Charred. These are the creatures that we'll be facing off against. They wanted like the undead kind of vibe in the Ashlands, rather than just demons and golems. And it's heavily inspired by the T8100 series from Terminator 2. These guys won't be running after you. They're going to stalk you. They're going to walk and chase you till your doom. It's really cool to see them in action. They definitely look or give me that vibe from Terminator 2. You'll hear it from them at the end of the video where I play the whole dev blog, but basically also saying how they wanted progression to be like it was in the Black Forest, and how in the Mistlands that's what they strove to do. They wanted the kind of best progression that they had was from the Meadows to Black Forest, and they tried to recreate that with Mistlands, but they always got to add something a little bit different or push it a little bit more, otherwise people might just generally get bored or used to them same mechanics, them same ideas. Some people do feel like Mistlands was a bit too much of a step in that direction of being too hard or just overcomplicated. They did end up dialing it back a little bit, the difficulty of creatures and stuff like that. It's not obviously the most pleasant of biome to actually make a home in, but it is pretty. Is the Ashlands going to be like that? It's definitely much more open. There is a fog or smog obviously from the burning and lava and stuff, but definitely not as inhibiting in terms of viewpoints. We are going to have burned forests, and it does look like it's going to be much more interesting with rocks and stuff. Now the scenery you're seeing behind you is probably the unfinished Ashlands as it currently is, so obviously that's all going to change. It's only when it says Ashlands development that's the new stuff. So yeah, trying to get that balance right. It's obviously something they've been thinking about a lot, and to make it more interesting, and how they had to dial back some ideas maybe, and at various times they even thought about cancelling some of the creatures, because although they've shown them off in concept art because they decided they wanted to be open and communicative, whereas with Mistlands they were so secretive, it does mean that sometimes, yeah, they may end up cancelling stuff and people might end up kind of getting annoyed with it. But in the end, I think that definitely trumps that happening, is being able to tell people, you know, what vaguely is coming. There are still going to be some surprises, of course. We all know we're not going to see the boss until we actually get round to it, until we experience the update for ourselves. But that's the battle they've faced, managing expectations versus what's actually occurring. We know we've got elemental weapons, we've got these sieges that we may have to take part in, and you can see some of the actual items we'll be using to hopefully get there. And honestly, I think this long into Valheim's development, yes, it'd be nice to see everything as a surprise, but it's actually really cool just to see what's coming, and it gives a lot of players something to look forward to massively. In fact, there's just so much gameplay, I wasn't expecting this to drop. I kind of had maybe suggested to them that they should let everyone know when roughly we can expect the Ashlands update before the end of the year. Because it did feel like, yeah, I was expecting it maybe to drop towards the end of this year since Mistlands was a year ago. But clearly, they've made sure they want to take more time with it and make sure that it's okay and everything's right and functioning. And it does look like it's going to be worth the wait. Just look at the craziness of that lava and dealing with creatures like the new sea serpent. Of course, some things will be subject to change, as we know, and I think it's about time I do a recap video giving you absolutely everything that's been shown off and everything we know about Ashlands so far. But this video really does a good job of encompassing so much of the teasers they've shown off on Twitter and some of the dev blogs. One creature they've had a real hard time with was the fallen Valkyries, and a bunch of times, like I said, they nearly went to cancel this guy, but they decided no, it was worth maybe sticking through and trying to find a way to make it work. So it does look like these are going to be pretty fearsome, facing off against these flying vulture-like Valkyries. Obviously, it's going to be pretty scary. I really hope they just come out of nowhere with a shriek and maybe pick you up and drop you somewhere. We're definitely going to need them feather capes, maybe. It may be a dead charred zone, but there's plenty of fauna still in there. Very looking nice, pinks and reds. Some of the food on show, we've got mashed meat, a piquant pie or spicy marmalade, and then we get to see our Vikings decked out in some of the new gear that will be unlocking and getting hold of. Two-handed proper axes now that I can't wait. So there we go. Normally I would leave a link to the video, but that means more work for you. I ain't gonna lie, I quite like the watch time. So if you want to hear the devs and what they've got to say, I'm going to play the whole 12-minute video now. I'm sure they won't mind. We're good friends. And as always, until next time, Ratbags, with the Valheim news, this is perfect way to round off the year and look forward to what's going to be one of the best updates, one of the best games going. Until next time, Ratbags, laters.
Welcome everyone. We're back with not quite a fireside chat, but with a version of this that we're going to call a walk and talk. We'll be doing a couple of these, though each will be a little bit shorter than the previous fireside chats. But let's get to it. My name is Josephine, and I'm a community manager, etc. here at Iron Gate, and I'm here with two of my colleagues to talk a little bit about Valheim and specifically about the Ashlands. Let's start with some brief introductions. Who are you and what do you do? Let's start with Jonathan, who have not been on one of these before.
Yeah, my name is Jonathan, and I do a lot of different stuff. I usually call myself a tinkerer. I guess I'm mainly coding, but doing a little bit of everything. Talking a lot about design with Robin and Andreas, and yeah, that's me.
And Robin, who are you?
Hello, they say I am Robin. I am a generalist artist, art director, and lead of Ashlands, I guess you could say. Working together with Jonathan and Andreas, planning out the Ashlands.
Indeed. But let's get to the Ashlands, essentially, then. I want you to talk a little bit about what actually goes into creating a Valheim biome. Like, what are the steps to create one, and what do we need in total to get a complete biome?
Well, first you need a pinch of salt. You need 2 tablespoons of butter.
A couple of eggs.
Couple of eggs. You need to break some eggs to make some biomes, yeah? There's so many things that goes into making a biome that there's no clear-cut recipe, I would say. But it starts with a vision. I think that it started just after Mistlands was released. It was in December. Or was it? I think it was.
Yeah, it was the November, December, depending on if you count the public test or not.
I think this was like 1 week before we went on Christmas vacation. I sat down and didn't have much to do, and I wanted to do something like sketch or do some concept art. I had an idea of Ashlands, or what it could be, and I was thinking a lot about like Terminator 2 Judgment Day. the movie. If we could just not go for the classic fire demons and lava golems, if we could go for something like more undead, that's where it all started, I think. Yeah, I think somewhere there. That's where I actually did the concept first. I thought it would be cool with an undead kind of place with fire, and yeah, just rolled on from there, I guess.
Yeah, so the Charred were one of the earliest concept arts then.
Yes, yeah, and they were loosely based on the Terminator T800 model, because I thought it would be cool if you had like these charred skeletons just walking towards the player, not running, just like ever walking towards the player, trying to catch up and kill you. But yeah, that's where it started. Obviously, we have other creatures as well. Sorry, Jonathan, for cutting you off there, but we have other things there as well. But it started with the undead thing. Jonathan, please.
Yeah, I was just I didn't want to cut you off either, but like I just thought, like, more in the general sense of creating a biome. I think it's interesting that, like, when we create a biome, say like in one way we're saying, yeah, we're going to create a biome, but in a lot of ways it's like a whole new, I don't want to say an expansion, but a whole new area which includes a lot of different ingredients. Whereas in some games, a biome is more like, oh, we just want to reskin a few different things, have a new area, a little bit new generation and stuff, and it can be done in a very short time, especially if it's maybe a smaller game. But for Valheim, it's really a whole lot of ingredients working in every single area of the game, not just reskinning stuff. Like, we'd want to add kind of new, interesting things, both like in the design-wise, monsters, weapons, and everything. Add some new mechanics that go well with the game, and not try to reinvent everything either, which is also kind of sometimes difficult because we always have a lot of cool ideas and we want to think like, oh, this would be cool, this would be cool. But at the same time, we don't want to like be building a whole new game in each biome. And I think it's kind of a balance there of how much new things should we be doing and how much should we be using the current systems that we have.
And it's sorry.
No,
I was gonna say it's not something that we can plan out straight from the start either. A lot of it is very iterative in how we work. You'll implement something and then you'll test and then you feel like this is missing, we should do this, or this didn't work, we need to recall that and try something different instead. Like, it's never a straightforward process, right?
Yes, that's absolutely the case. And I think many times when we go in and look at a new biome or creating a biome for Mistlands, even back when we were doing Plains, which was called Hearthlands before Heathlands before early access release. But I think what happens every time is we go back and look at Meadows to Black Forest transition and how that works. I think that is the best version of how to transition from one biome to the next. Getting a pickaxe as a tool, going into that biome, looking for the resources, stumbling upon the dungeons, going into dungeons, getting the reward of the Surtling cores, and finding these new things that you can all of a sudden build that you were not anticipating. So when we did Mistlands, we went back and looked at the Black Forest progression, and I think when we did Ashlands, we went back and looked at Black Forest to see again. But with that said, Mistlands took Black Forest and pushed it even further with the progression there, and we've gone back to doing a little bit more Mistlands kinda progression with some added touches, I'd say.
But the core mantra is always, what would the Black Forest do?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a perfect way to introduce, a near perfect way to introduce player to a new scary place and give good rewards and keep things interesting. We have so many biomes in Valheim, and if you just boil them down into the core ingredients, it's go in, it's difficult, get new resource, become master of that biome, kill the boss, and continue. You can only do that so many times before you're like, I think I'm done now.
Need to add something a little bit extra.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of lucky that it worked so well. Like, I mean, the Meadows to the Black Forest is a really like we keep going back to looking at that, and that first one worked so well was very good because that really I mean, it's the first one that players see and try and play, and that kind of that one works well is good, because then they actually stay in the game rather than if the first one was a little bit janky and it gets better when you get further in, then people wouldn't even get further in because they would maybe be tired of the game already. So I think it's a good how do you say, like they would go back to the first one and try to somehow make it feel like the beginning of the game, so we're not going crazy in lots of different directions.
Indeed. But let's move on a little bit in my list of things that I wanna talk to you about. Something that we have done a bit different during the development of the Ashlands versus the Mistlands is that we've been showing a lot more to the community. Back during the Mistlands, we were very secretive. We didn't show a lot, but this time we've shown enemy concepts. We have shown some weapons. We've hinted at some of the new mechanics. And what effects do you think that this will have on our development? Like, does that mean that we constrain ourselves to certain things just because we have shown them, or does it give us more freedom in a way? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, as you said, I think that has been the case, like in a few different examples, where we do show things, we're not really sure about everything, but we want to share things, which is fun. But then people kind of make their own idea of what it is. Then we kind of realize maybe we don't know exactly where this is going. Maybe through testing and iterative process, we realize that, we're not sure what we want to do with this. But in some ways, we've already shown up certain things, and then we feel that, okay, we might have to cut this part. People might be disappointed about that, or can we figure out a way to make it fit? I think it's fun to share things, but it also makes expectations higher in some ways. We get a lot of comments and we have to consider those. It also makes people, progress-wise, people might think, it's going to be done soon, and we will take our time, finish it, release it when it's finished and when it's good. So yeah, I think there's both good and bad sides of it.
I agree. There is good and bad in everything. Whatever you choose to do, I believe in. Life needs balance. Everything needs balance. In Mistlands, we were very super secret. We were the super secret agency of super secrets. And I don't really think that was a good way to do it. I'm not sure if I totally like the way that we're doing now, because in my mind, I think we lose some of the interesting jump scares that could happen, or the WTF moments that could happen if people have already seen.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of an element of surprise that we're not gonna get simply because we've shown things. But we still have some things that we have a hard limit on never showing before the biome is released, and the audience will not know what that is, but we know.
Yeah,
I think there's always going to be a large part of players who will avoid everything, and they will still have these good moments. So I think the people who really care about it, they will probably not be spoiled a lot, and we also have those things. I do think it's a lot more fun for us, and I think it's really important to communicate with the community, especially since we have a little bit longer development times between our updates, so that we have a little bit more open communication. I hope that is something that's been appreciated, but I don't know.
I think as long as you go ahead and just say that these things might change, could change, and will change, I think that's how you safeguard kind of rolling back some features or design choices. In the end of the day, I don't think it's always going to be worth it. Like, if we have a creature that looks cool, but and we start creating it, we have an idea or a vision for it, but in game it just doesn't work. We've had that case with the Fallen Valkrie. The Fallen Valkrie has gone through so many changes that it's been like, okay, let's just kill her off. Let's take her off the table. But I think we're getting into making her feel much better. But she could have gone, and there's so many creatures that could have been in or could have been taken out. It's always going to be up to us, obviously, but things will change and have to change, I think, for the greater good of Valheim. I think that's a good way to see it.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to take a little bit of a break now because we've gone through some of the things, and we will return for a second walk and talk fairly soon. Thank you for joining me today, both Robin and Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.